Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I'm not here with Geeky Sparkles in this video, so I'm going to talk about the Hasbro fire sale. Apparently, Hasbro is liquidating a bunch of its memorabilia because they're going to move to Boston. So we're going to talk about that, and then I think we're probably going to talk a little bit about the backlash, the continued backlash against Wizards of the Coast, which is now owned by Hasbro, and they produce Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering, and Wizards' attitude toward the originators, the creators of Dungeons and Dragons, is coming up again due to a recent interaction between Grums and Elon Musk. A couple of days ago, Grums was talking about how they basically are ignoring Gary Gygax, and we've been talking about this for a number of years. In fact, Grums was on an episode of our podcast probably a year or two ago, and we tried to kind of clue him in as to what was going on, but this has been going on for a while. Hasbro is a toy company and a game company that doesn't want to make games or toys. They want to make video games. They want to make digital content. And I don't think it's going to work out very well for them. We've been covering it. Their shareholders are suing them, claiming that they've been lying about their overstock. And a lot of that overstock, winds up at Ollie's for next to nothing. That they're lying about the amount of overproduced product they have. We've got the situation with the movies where their movies, pretty much every single movie they've done for the past couple of years has been a box office failure, and they're no longer going to bankroll movies themselves. And now they're going to pull Hasbro out of Rhode Island completely, and Hasbro's been there for over 100 years, something like that. They're a fixture in Pawtucket, and they're going to move to Boston. And they're having a fire sale. So let's talk about this. Before you get into any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Check out clownfishminus.com. We got some merch out here you won't find anywhere else. We have a couple signed items out there. Very, very limited supply of signed items. Mugs, hats. These hats are pretty cool. And this is my favorite hat right here. So we got some stuff out there. You can also join the community. You'll get exclusive videos and podcasts you won't find anywhere else. And also we mirror that content on Locals as well. If you'd prefer to join on Locals, clownfishtv.locals.com. Thank you very much. Let's talk about the fire sale, and then we're going to talk about Wizards of the Coast and this whole thing coming up again, which I think is good because the bigger issue that's going on now everywhere is that woke is the new disco. Basically, everybody is turning their backs on it very, very quickly, except for Wizards of the Coast, who, apparently didn't get that memo, and they're just going to keep doubling down on it until D&D, D&D doesn't resemble itself right now. So it's a whole thing. There are many, many videos on this channel you can watch. It's coming from Providence Business First. Hasbro liquidates memorabilia ahead of HQ move. They say they've cleaned out a portion of its toy vault as it mulls plans to vacate Rhode Island, Pawtucket, Rhode Island, the headquarters. I think it's a done deal. They wouldn't be selling all this stuff if they weren't moving. Hasbro has raised $3.3 million via a once-in-a-lifetime Power Rangers auction where collectors compete for costumes, monsters, props, weapons, and warriors across the franchise's 30-year legacy. A full 700 lots of collectibles were sold to fans around the world. Damn, according to Heritage Auctions. It was the largest and most comprehensive collection of Power Rangers memorabilia ever assembled. Items ranged from the classic Power Rangers Mighty Morphin to Cosmic Fury, which sold for $87,500 after a prolonged bidding war. The toys have become nostalgia-infused collectibles. Hasbro acquired the Power Rangers brand in 2017. Yeah, Power Rangers for many years were produced by Bandai, and that's because they did the Super Sentai. And then, like pretty much everything else Hasbro currently has, they acquired Power Rangers. I think they were thinking Power Rangers would go nicely with Marvel and Transformers. That demographic would cross over, but they actually mismanaged it terribly, in my opinion. The only really good thing to come out of it, I think, were some of the Boom comics, but the brand has been mismanaged, and now it's in such a decimated state that Hasbro is actually outsourcing production of all the Power Rangers toys to Playmates, their rival, because Hasbro doesn't want to be bothered with it anymore. And that's pretty sad. They said it's not clear where Hasbro had been storing the Power Rangers memorabilia before selling it. The company's spokesperson on Friday didn't answer questions about the goods, where they had been held, and how much space they took up. A Heritage spokesperson said Friday the large shipment of items arrived in Dallas via a truck transport. It was shipped to our warehouse in Dallas ahead of the auction. As you can imagine, we have a huge shipping department. In a statement, Heritage said the auction was the celebration of Power Rangers' legacy and their impact on pop culture. They say Hasbro is searching for a modern corporate headquarters under CEO Chris Cox. It's currently courting offers from economic development agencies in both Massachusetts and Rhode Island. I think they're going to move. They just want to make video games. They want to license out their IP, let other people take the risk, because they've mismanaged pretty much everything that they have right now. Last couple Transformers movies have been box office bombs. Transformers themselves, the toy line's actually done okay, but that's because they're pandering to Gen X collectors. And the collector line does well. The Legacy United line has actually done pretty well. It's hard to find some of the figures. But Transformers 1 was a huge box office flop. And I think the marketing had a lot to do with it. And also, unlike the kids today even care about Transformers. Yeah, I don't know. Star Wars, massive failure. They tried bringing the 4-inch figures back, the Kenner style figures back. At a decent price point. They're like $7 to $10. I guess in today's money, it's not too bad. They're not selling. I've seen them on clearance already at Walmart for like $3. There's no vehicles. There's no Millennium Falcon. There's no X-Wing or TIE Fighter or anything like that. So you're just buying an action figure for $7 or whatever. It's just not working. My Little Pony, Basic Fun's already making those. And then we're talking about, some of their other brands too. Basic Fun is making. I think they acquired Tonka. They acquire everything. They bought like everything. It's basically Hasbro committed like toy company Highlander, and other than Mattel, they own pretty much everything. Like all these brands, Play School, and they were all separate companies when we were kids for the most part. I think Play School always was a Hasbro brand, but like Milton Bradley they bought, and Parker Brothers they bought, and Kenner they bought, and Tonka they bought, and these all used to be separate toy companies, and they own all of it. And then they pissed away 90% of their IP. Basic Fun makes some of the stuff for collectors, or just people that are like, hey, I'd like to have a G1 My Little Pony or a Lincoln Log set or something like that. And now Playmates is going to make Power Rangers, but the show sucks now. So what's the point? Are they just going to go back to Mighty Morphin or what? So this is not good. It's not a good situation. But what they got going for them is video games and Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons. And this is not helping their reputation any. I mean, there's been nonstop controversy surrounding Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons and Dragons since, probably at least 3, 4, 5 years now. And for anyone who's not familiar with the current tabletop scene, it is very, very quote unquote progressive. That is my polite way of saying woke as fuck. I mean, literally the tabletop scene, you think that comics or movies or video games is infected with activists, you've never paid attention to what is going on in the tabletop scene. It is like ground zero. In fact, I would say it probably originated in tabletop in science fiction, as I understand it, and then it sort of radiated out to bigger, more influential media, like video games and movies and, that sort of thing. But they have a huge problem right now because Dungeons and Dragons, it sold really well during the pandemic, but I don't know how it's going to do going forward. There are a lot of alternatives now, and Wizards of the Coast, beyond the OGL 1.1 debacle, which was a whole thing where they basically yanked the license away from the players. Like, you were allowed to produce any content you wanted to based on, I think it was version 3.5 of D&D. And they decided they were going to revoke that. It was supposed to be a permanent, forever license. Like, you could always repurpose 3.5 and create all kinds of modules and supplements and spinoffs. And then they're like, nah, fam, you got to license it from us now. And you got to pay through the nose for it. So they pissed people off there. And then they pissed people off with the Pinkertons. Now, that was Magic the Gathering, but a guy got a box of cards early, opened them up on YouTube, and they sent the freaking Pinkertons to his house. Okay, and then we had the virtual tabletop, where basically Cynthia Williams, who was hired, she was another one from Microsoft. She was hired by Chris Cox to basically juice players for as much as they could. And they're moving ahead with all this mobile app shit and virtual tabletop shit. But they want every individual D&D player to, pay a subscription fee or some shit like that, because it wasn't enough. Because they said, the problem with D&D is that the dungeon masters usually buy the books. And we want the players to buy stuff too. So it's like they're trying to turn it into a freaking video game. And they are. They're doing this mobile app or whatever. And Baldur's Gate made a bunch of money. And then Larian left. I think Larian left. They couldn't work with Wizards. So they got that going on. And then the 50th anniversary comes around. They drop a book. And leading up to the book coming out, we had people that worked at Wizards. And I don't think they're there anymore. But they were talking about how regressive D&D was back in the day, because it was created by a bunch of, straight white guys in the flyover states. And, it's come so far since then. It's come so far since then. And it's so progressive now, guys. And, the opinions expressed by the founders, by the creators of D&D, they don't reflect current year Wizards of the Coast sensibilities, guys. And they put this in the 50th anniversary book. Like, we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons by taking a steaming shit on the people that made Dungeons and Dragons. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? So, it really is a mess right now. The best thing I think Wizards of the Coast could do right now is if they're going to license stuff out, they need to give D&D to people who are actually going to care about it. And I don't know if that would be Paizo. I have no idea. But I really think that the tabletop version of D&D anyway should be taken away from the current crew at Hasbro. They don't give a crap. And then here's the funny thing about it. Yeah, Elon Musk actually got involved in this shit too. Here's the funny thing about this whole situation with WotC is they never really wanted, Hasbro never wanted Dungeons and Dragons. They kind of got stuck with it. They bought WotC because of Magic the Gathering and Pokemon cards, the card game. That's what they wanted. Hasbro wanted that. And they bought Wizards for that. But a couple of years before Wizards got sold to Hasbro, TSR sold themselves to Wizards because TSR, there were a well-documented series of unfortunate business decisions that led to the demise of TSR, which was flying high. Like in the late 80s, early 90s, TSR seemed indestructible. Like if you thought of fantasy gaming, you thought of Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, they had all kinds of merchandise. There was, second edition just came out and it was doing, as far as I could tell, it was doing really, really well. You would go to any comic shop and they had a massive, D&D miniature section, lots of books. I mean, every bookstore had D&D stuff. They had tons of video games out then, the SSI games, which I had most of them. But yeah, it just seemed like they were pretty much invincible, and then they just collapsed. Like there were so many bad decisions that were made, and then WotC wound up scooping them up, which made sense at the time. It actually made sense for Wizards of the Coast to acquire TSR, I think, because they were traveling in the same direction. And then Hasbro got involved in the mix, and it was just like, it's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. Apparently Wizards blocked Grums. Jeez. So yeah, there's a lot of discussion going on about this. And Kyle Brink, who got fired for it, I believe, talking about the white guys from the flyover state and the race, and we don't want people like you. Guys like me can't leave soon enough from this hobby. And guess what? You got your wish. Yeah, I don't know, guys. Hasbro's just look, if they're licensing out their stuff right now, I think there are several IPs that need to be taken from them, or at least licensed to companies that actually care about them. Like we see what can happen if people that care about these products actually get to work on them. Look at the Energon universe. That's a really good example. So I don't know if Playmates is going to do right by Power Rangers. I think they'll be at a better price point, but I can't imagine Playmate's doing like transformable Zords. I don't know. Doesn't seem like it's in their wheelhouse, but who knows? Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up, guys. There we go. Hasbro fire sale. I think we're going to see a lot more bad news from Hasbro. In fact, I just saw today there was an investor alert about Hasbro because of the lawsuit and all the other, macroeconomic circumstances. But yeah, if it ain't nailed down, they're selling it off. Can't wait till they get the Transformers stuff though. That'd be pretty awesome. Might actually have to bid on some of that. I'm gonna wrap it up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.